A female downhill skateboarder has called out the issue of males in female sports, and for this, she's facing threats. The Post-Millennial reports female skateboarder faces threats after advocating for fairness in women's sports while upholding concept that transgender women are women. Interesting story. The woman in question is a downhill skateboarder, meaning she's not going to be doing any ollies or tray flips. I mean, she might, but in her principal role, she is going really, really fast downhill, likely racing or something. And the funny thing about this is the reason why this story matters. She did not outright just come out and say, we should not have males in female sports. No, she was like, let's bring everyone together to have a conversation about this because there's some contention here. And they started threatening her and attacking her, even though she desperately tried to maintain the leftist position. Now, what are we seeing? I believe it's only a matter of time before this woman comes out fully red-pilled or based or whatever you want to call it, because the threats are pushing her away from this position. As of right now, it appears she deleted the post, but I will read for you what she said. I want to make a point, too, in reading this. They talk about male puberty. Male puberty, in my opinion, is a Trojan horse used by activists, and I reject it outright. Puberty is not a factor in fairness in sports. It was a prepubescent boy who landed the first 1080 on a skateboard, and we've only just seen the first fakey 720 by a female, and this was only in the past couple of months, whereas it's been a decade plus since a little boy did the first 1080. Prenatal testosterone plays a role in this, and so let's read. Anna O'Neill posted in a multi-post thread. This is the introduction to the recent women's meeting addressing transgender eligibility criteria at an elite level in downhill skateboarding. Although people are trying to spin the narrative that I am transphobic and that I bullied transgender women, that is false. The structure of this meeting wasn't perfect by any means. No one who organized this is an expert in conflict resolution. However, our intentions were to bring all relevant parties to the table and to open up communication in a respectful manner, the best way we know how, with the tools and information we have. This isn't about myself. This isn't about any individual athlete. This is about fairness and safety in sport and how much we are willing to sacrifice for inclusivity. Transgender women are women. You can be an ally who supports trans rights, women's rights, and fair and meaningful competition simultaneously. I never intended for anyone to agree on everything in this meeting, but I did want everyone to have a chance to be heard. I firmly believe society will be a better place if we stop trying to intimidate others into silence and instead try to foster healthy communication when discussing polarizing topics. A lot of people are pointing out she outright said trans women are women, which we'll address in a second. Arguments were made for the inclusion of transgender women. Or she says transgender women are women. I've never said otherwise. But sex and gender are two different things. To say there are no physiological differences between trans women and females is false. Arguments were made for the inclusion of trans women in the women's category with zero eligibility criteria. Arguments were also made for trans women only being allowed to race in the women's category if they have not gone through any stage of male puberty. I'm going to pause right there and just say, Trojan horse. I reject that. If you are born male or born female, that matters in these criteria. It is a male criteria and a female criteria, not a I have undergone certain treatments criteria. Perhaps the answer to this is a trans category or open category. Many other arguments were made. This was the purpose of the meeting, to discuss different viewpoints. Even if talking about these possibilities hurt feelings on either side, critical thinking and the sharing of ideas is integral to understanding nuanced issues and making informed decisions. In many spaces in this world, there doesn't need to be any differentiation between trans women and females, as they are both women. But in some spaces, these differences matter and should not be ignored. This conversation is taking place across the world in every sport. We've taken that first step and have been viciously bullied and threatened with violence for it. Regardless, I plan to continue to foster respectful, open, and meaningful dialogue with the aim of finding ways to honor all marginalized groups in our beautiful community and in our sport, blah, blah, blah. Taylor Silverman tweets, it looks like she has now deleted this post. I got to tell you, I think the trajectory for this woman is going to be full red pilling. Look, for the most part, it is a lopsided experience. If you advocate for biological males in female sports, you will get an array of hate and you will get a lot of arguments. In the inverse, you will get death threats. Now, I think it's like 80-20, or maybe it's 60-40. Elements of the right have their threats and harassment, And I view it mostly as more annoying kind of tweets because the right doesn't really go out and do anything overwhelmingly, but the left has like organized what I refer to as blunt protests. Here's how I see it. The left is what I call widespread and blunt in their force. And the right is rare, but it is sharp. Meaning sometimes you get fringe weirdos that have a right-oriented political perspective, anti-leftist, and they engage in extreme acts of violence. But rarely. On the left, it is widespread, consistent, overwhelming, but not as devastating. That is to say, the left will punch you in the face and they'll punch 100 people in the face, over the span of a few months. Nobody dies because of it, but sometimes, and thus it doesn't really end up in the news, and you don't hear about this unless you pay attention to it. Then you have psychotic, fringe right-wing individuals who engage in extreme acts. But then there's an argument about what makes someone right, what makes someone left. My point is this. There are people on the right who are annoying online, who issue threats online, and that's bad, and it shouldn't be. But the left does this all the time, which is why I think where this goes, this woman is going to be slammed so hard by the left and attacked so brutally. She's going to only find solace with people who identify more so on the right. That's the meme. That's the trope. It's that comic of the dude standing in between the left and the right. And it says, both sides make some interesting points. And then the left shoves him as hard as possible. And the right catches him and says, are you okay? And they go, why are you siding with them? This woman says, we got to figure this one out. People are upset. So they attack her for it to the point where she's even deleted the post. This is common in the political space, and it's not going to change. Let's talk about sports. Look, man, I got to tell you, part of me doesn't care. Most of these women accept this. And I'm just kind of like, dude, you get what you ask for. I don't care. If women want to allow males to compete against them, so be it. Whatever, man. And then when the podium is just always going to be dudes, fine, whatever. Or males. You will find typically it's going to be a transgender male on the top of the podium. No question. I skateboard. It's absolutely, oh man, these woke skateboarders get so mad when I say this. It's like, dude, come on. We all know Leticia Buffoni is super good for a woman. If you were to compare, Leticia Buffoni is like one of the best female skateboarders in the world. If you were to compare her level of skill, if you were to remove biological sex from the charts outright, and then place everybody based on their skill, their consistency, their style, their trick repertoire. If you were to put them all on the same skill level, Leticia Buffoni has the skill of like your average teenage Flow sponsored dude. So let me slow down. There are several degrees of skateboarding sponsorship. It's changed quite a bit with the advent of social media, but you've got like Flow Rider. A Flow Rider, isn't that funny? Someone who is Flow and a skater means they get free stuff. Typically, you're sponsored by a shop. A local skate shop will give you a board and say you're on our team, film videos to help promote the shop and what we do. And you want to build prestige in the community so that more people shop with you. You then have hired industry flow riders. These are people who get free stuff from big companies. They'll get shoes, they'll get boards, they'll get clothes because they want the best skaters filming videos wearing their gear. Advertising. Then you have the amateur level. And this makes no sense, but AMs get paid cash to go on tour to skate and to represent the brand. And then you have the pros, signature models. If Leticia Buffoni was a guy, would probably be sponsored by a local skate shop and get some free gear. I am not ragging on Leticia Buffoni. She's awesome. One of the best skateboarders. But as a woman, it's like, okay, it's really cool to see her do like a lip slide, jumping down a railing for those that aren't familiar. But if you watch dudes skate, come on, it's obvious. There's no question. You got Yuto Horigome doing, what did he do? Like nollie back 270 backside nose slide down a rail. Just absolutely nuts tricks. Like sugar cane down a 12-stair rail. You got a video of a guy doing a kickflip backside nose blunt down a gap to ledge. And I know that sounds meaningless to half of you, but trust me, like, watching these street league skate videos, and I'm just like, how is this possible, this level of skating? Watching a dude do like a nollie inward heel flip over like a 12-foot long gap from like a 6-foot ramp. And I'm just like, these dudes got skills, bravery, consistency. And it's crazy. I'm like watching a video of a dude trying to do a frontside blunt slide down like a 10-stair hubba ledge. I know, more meaningless names. But it's like, imagine someone is standing on something about 6 feet high, and there is a ledge that goes at an angle, and he wants to jump on top of it, slide with his wheels. And I'm watching this video where the dude just, he locks on and then just jumps off and walks away like nothing even happened. And I'm like, that's crazy to watch. A dude bashes ribs on a railing and then just get up and do it again. The level of skill, determination, grit is unquestionable. There's a difference between males and females. And it's not to rag on females. They're in a different category. They have different Q angles, different center of gravity. But this conversation matters. I suppose you can make the argument that when it comes to downhill skating, there's less of a disadvantage because you're just going as fast as possible, but reflexes matter. More muscles means faster muscle movements. So to a certain degree, it's like a bell curve. If you have bigger muscles, you're more agile, you can move faster. A lot of people thought that was the opposite because the muscles, no, you can respond more quickly. So when you watch stuff like this, there's no question, man. Not to mention more bone density, more muscle mass, more skin collagen, less prone to hip and ankle and knee injuries because of the Q angle. This, okay, unless the outcome is, like women just don't win anymore and trans women start taking the top trophies, there you go. There's a handful of trans skaters. It's just like, dude, come on. Like, I got no beef if you're trans, do your thing. But, bro, you just did like a hard flip backside 5-0 revert. I don't think I've ever seen a woman come close to a trick like that. You know, there are women who are good at skating. I'm not saying they don't exist. But it's like, that bell curve. Look at the grip strength bell curve. You can see it right there. You know, like the strongest female grip strength is like on par with the average male grip strength. So how do you deal with this? We've created the female category in sports because of these differences. If there was no concern over male or female differences, we'd have everybody compete in the same category. Here's the truth. NBA, NFL, whatever, like all of these sports, they have no rule saying women can't compete. They're allowed to try out. They just don't make it. Tend to be shorter, less muscle mass, tend to run slower. What do? Putting males in the female category just doesn't make sense. As I often say, we did not create female sporting categories because sometimes people wear dresses. We created them because males and females are different. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up today at 1 p.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.